I try and do as much outdoor stuff like up and down hills and hacking, and just so you're getting more of a feel for the horse, rather than, because all these guys can jump major Grand Prix and they're doing it every single week. So for me to try and train differently and come out and still compete at that same level is the main goal for me, is to keep it so personal with the horse, and then in the very end, hopefully I'm a little closer to my horse than they are, and that's the only advantage I can take on them.
Mm-hmm. Welcome to the Practical Horseman podcast, featuring conversations with respected riders, industry leaders, and horse care experts. The show is co-hosted by Practical Horseman editors, and our goal is to inform, educate, and inspire. I'm Sandy Olenek, and this week's episode is with Irish Grand Prix rider Daniel Coyle. Daniel and I spoke at the Washington International Horse Show in Maryland in late October. For the interview, we sat at a picnic table just outside the FEI stabling area. Our interview was shortly before Daniel competed in the $406,000 President's Cup Grand Prix Saturday night. Daniel and Ariel Grange's Legacy placed 8th in the class, a qualifier for the 2023 Longines FEI Jumping World Cup Final in Omaha, Nebraska. Earlier in the week, Daniel and Legacy, a 12-year-old Zanger Scheid mare, kicked off the competition, winning the $75,000 welcome stake. The next night, Daniel and Ariel's Oak Grove's Carlisle tied for the win in the $25,000 Defender Puissance, clearing the wall at a height of 6 feet 10 inches. During our conversation, Daniel speaks about his partnerships with Legacy and Carlisle. One part I found particularly interesting was how, when he started riding Legs 4 years ago, she was trained in the more controlled European style of riding. Daniel talks about how that differs from the North American style of more forward riding, and how these days top riders need to know how to do both. Another part that was fun was talking about Carlisle, who had been ridden by 2 Olympians before Daniel started to ride the Holsteiner Gelding. Daniel talks about how he determined early in their partnership that Carlisle loves to go in the competition ring and be left alone. So basically, Daniel has to work at doing nothing riding in the show ring. And that includes jumping the 6 foot 10 inch Puissance wall. I just really like that Daniel was so open to adapting to Carlisle's needs. For a little more on Daniel's background, he grew up in Ireland with his father training him and Jordan. Daniel says the competitiveness between the brothers only made them better growing up and now in competition. Daniel represents the Irish team, but for the last 6 years, he has ridden Ariel Grange's Lothlorien farm in Cheltenham, Ontario. He and Legs represented Ireland in the FEI World Championships this summer, where the team placed 4th. Earlier this year in Florida, they won the $500,000 Great American Grand Prix and finished 2nd in the $216,200 Live Oak CSIW Grand Prix. They also placed in the top 10 at the 2021 European Championship. Daniel and Carlisle won the Longines Grand Prix of Rotterdam CSIO 5-star in the Netherlands last June, and a CSI 5-star speed class in the Netherlands in July. Before getting into our conversation, I'd like to share a message from this episode's sponsor, VitaFlex Pro, which also sponsored Practical Horseman's coverage of the Washington International Horse Show. In competition, there's a fine line between where you were yesterday, where you are today, and where you'll be tomorrow. It's the line we push ourselves to chase and cross. VitaFlex Pro can help you get there. VitaFlex Pro's equine nutritionists, veterinarians, and scientists are dedicated to developing the best supplements you can give your performance horse. That's their fine line. What's yours? For more information, visit vitaflex.com. Now, let's jump into our conversation with Daniel, where he starts by talking about how his partnership with Legacy started.
Well, thank you, Daniel, for joining me.
So you've had a good competition so far at this show.
Yes, yeah, I've had a good start to the week. We have one more big class to go, but things are going well so far.
Great. Well, congratulations so far.
Yeah, thank you.
So you won the 75,000 FEI Welcome Stake on Legacy on Thursday night. Can you talk a little bit about that partnership, how it started and how it's developed over the years?
Yeah, we actually were in Wellington, Florida, and we were on the lookout for a championship horse, me and obviously Ariel Green, she owns the horse. And Jerome Dubaldam had been helping me a little bit, and he has won every major possible. So after probably a year or maybe even a year and a half, he said, I think I know where there's a championship horse. And I told Ariel, and then 1 week later we went and tried what now is Legacy. She used to be called Chevin Tell when Ariel bought her, but Ariel's mum had passed away. So, and she owned the farm, ran the farm, and Ariel sort of took it over. So it's why her name was changed to Legacy, because that was the legacy Ariel wanted to build for herself, and that is now the horse.
That's sweet. That's scary. Can you talk about, I guess, what she was like when you started riding her?
She was, obviously she was grown up in Europe, so everything was a little more backward, a little slower, because Europeans are very strict about every stride and every distance. It's a little bit different to North America, let's say. So the first year it was really getting to know her. She was still 8, so she hadn't really jumped that many big courses. I took her straight to Spruce Meadows, and it took 4 or 5 weeks before she got up to speed there. She was always jumping too high, or not jumping high enough, and not getting inside the time allowed, and all things a young horse does. So, and the nice thing about that is both of us grew together then. So we became a real good partnership.
What would you say like her strengths are in terms of riding and competing?
She has everything that you want, and basically an all-round horse for a championship or a Grand Prix. She's quite quick in the jump-offs, which is important nowadays, and also for the first round, for the time allowed. She has a lot of scope, and she is very, very, very careful. Sometimes that can nearly be a weakness to her because she is so careful. So I have to manage that to the best I can to make her not overachieve and also not underachieve. So she has lots of strengths when you put them all together.
Is there anything you work on, like training wise? Do you have a go-to exercise with her, or something that she needs help with?
I have a few different training exercises. I do one with Cavaletti where I can build them all in circles and then intertwine them all, so that the horse is basically jumping around in circles, but never in the same circle, so that they're building muscle everywhere. Obviously, a horse has to be very well experienced to do it. I believe there is a few videos on my Instagram or on YouTube of it. And you need a very experienced horse to do it. The problem is with these experienced horses, we need to keep them thinking and keep them doing something new so that they don't just get fed up with the sport. So I always try and make it interesting. A lot of outside time, basically, like at home or in Florida, try and do as much outside of the arena as possible. And then obviously, if there's anything we need to touch up in the arena, we do that as well. But try and keep out like on trails and try and stay away from the dressage side of it, if you like, more flat work rather than dressage for me.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned that when you first got her, she was sort of more the European style of backwards. So how, just thinking about your background, are you more of like forward riding? I think all jockeys everywhere in the world is something we grow up with, whether it's North America or Europe. There's two very different styles of riding, and the key to success is to be able to do both and switch at any given time, because you need
all the keys to beat all these guys is not easy. So you need to be able to do it all.
Interesting. So you can go back and forth.
Well, yeah, that's the idea, that you can, when you're in Europe, things slow down a little bit as regards of time allowed. Jumps are a little more technical. North America, the jumps are a little bigger and you go a little faster, and that's just how it is. Not always, not everywhere, but it's something you got to be able to do both.
Yeah. So you competed in the World Championships this past summer with Legacy. I guess, what did that mean to you, to qualify? And
it was a huge deal to go to any championship. I actually was top 10 at the European Championships the year before, and was a little bit upset because I was close to a medal and I had a reel down, and it was my fault. And I thought, I really want to go back to the championship and fix that and try and win a medal. So we got to the World Championships, and our main goal was to qualify for the Olympics as a team. And so not so much individual this time, but really about qualifying for the Olympics. So somehow I ended up being last to go, which is always a lot of pressure in every round. And every round I did, there was a lot of pressure on me and Legacy. And thankfully, doing the first championship and then going to the second one, we were well able to cope with it all. So, we didn't win any medals. We were fourth. We qualified for the Olympics, and with so much pressure every single day, she had 2 down in the individual, and I retired because she doesn't owe me anything for that individual day. I just thought we've achieved enough now, and we can achieve no more. We'll go to the next one.
Yeah. Do you get nervous for that type of competition?
Yeah, I think it's important. If you don't get nervous, it's something everybody should embrace, and then rather than get nervous, you get focused. But it's still nerves, so you have to deal with it and overcome it and make it part of it, because it's not good if it's not there either.
Yeah. And then you also won the 500,000 Great American Grand Prix earlier this year in Ocala with her. What was that like?
That was an interesting one, actually, because I wasn't supposed to go to that. My brother, Jordan, had says, in Florida, there's lots of shows and lots of classes every single week. And I wasn't sure what I was going to do for the next month to set up for the 500 at the end of the WEF in Wellington. And he had says to me, maybe you should do the 500 in Ocala. And so then I went to Ariel and says, maybe we should do this. It's a lot of money. It's a different course, obviously, and it's a different setup, but it worked great. It worked brilliant. She jumped phenomenal there, obviously won. And then the following week, actually, was the 500 in Wellington, and she had a fence down in the jump off, or she would have won that as well. So it was a good plan, and I'll do it again, I'll say.
Yeah. I guess health-wise with her, do you do anything special to keep her happy and healthy?
There's two different kinds of people in the show industry way, and some horses like to care for themselves, if you like, as in you look after them the best of your ability, but how much time do you have the vet looking at them? How much time do you spend trotting them and assessing them yourself? And I have several that I treat differently. She is one that has done all the huge things for me, so I'm always having a vet looking at her, and I'm always having her looked at the day before show, the night before, and the days after, even for the next few weeks. So there's nothing stands out, but if there's anything she needs, we will get it to her.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then you talked a little bit the other night that personality-wise, back at the barn, she is the boss. She's the boss.
Yeah, I think from a young age, even in the warm-up, sometimes she's not just 100% about other horses. The ones she travels with most, they become her friends, obviously, but she likes to be in control of everything. So even when a horse passes her in the warm-up, she's not a big fan of it, but for sure she thinks she's the boss, or maybe she is.
And does she have a nickname?
Legs.
Legs.
That's the nickname.
And then moving on a little bit to Oak Groves Carlisle. So you tied last night the Defender Puissance. I guess what's it like to gallop to such a big jump?
That was an interesting ride for me last night as well, actually, because I don't have him that long, actually. Maybe it must be maybe 2 years now, but he has done a lot in his career already before he got to me, and I'm finding out every single day a little bit more about him. But he doesn't like to be pushed too much, as in, if you want him to go fast, he has to think he's not going fast. It's a strange horse that way. So he hasn't been going great this last few weeks. He won the Rotterdam 5-star Grand Prix, and he's been placed in a whole lot of classes this year. But since he got back, he wasn't interested. So last night, every time I was riding down to the wall, had to try and hold my nerve, I suppose, and not kick and just stay out of his way. And he jumped it better and better every round. And that was the outcome I was hoping for. So I'm delighted with that.
Yeah. Why do you like competing in? Because you said you won the Dublin Puissance last year?
Yeah. This year I jumped it, and I can't remember, was Dublin maybe was cancelled last year because of COVID. Anyway, the last year it was on, I won it on a different horse, but they're great classes for a rider, because if one round you get a little deep or you're a little far off, you get another go if you clear it still. So doesn't matter what stride you're on, you still have to try to clear it. But it's a wee bit of repetitiveness to it. And in show jumping, that's something that really helps horse and rider. If you can be really repetitive, then you can be really consistent. So I like it.
Mm-hmm. Great. And yeah, can you talk about your partnership with Coyle and just how it started and how it's developed over there?
Yeah, in the beginning, it took me. Our first class together actually was a 5-star Grand Prix, so that was big ask.
Right in.
Yeah, jump right in. But Jerome Dubbeldam had rode him before, and Ralph Cornbinkson at the top level already. So I knew he was well capable of doing it. I just had to let him know that so was I, but try and stay out of his way as much as possible. And from training, that is something I don't think I'll ever have another horse that I've had to train like him, which basically is allowing him to do everything himself. He changes leads good, he knows where he's going. It's just don't do too much, and it's one of the hardest things for any jockey, and I'm sure they would all agree with that, is to do nothing. And to ride that horse correctly, that's exactly what you got to do.
Oh, wow. How did you figure that out?
After he won Rotterdam, the 5-star, they asked me in the press conference, they says, how do you make this horse better than he went for Jerome or for Ralph? Like, what have you done differently? And I said, well, I just figured if you guys can't get him to go any better by asking him, then maybe, just maybe, I should try not asking him. And for sure, it's daunting, but he loves it, and he goes best that way. So it's not that I ride any better than them. It's just I've learned from watching them do it, and he loves to go that way. So just keep trying to make it that way.
I guess with him in terms of training, how do you train a horse like that, or does he have any challenges that you work on? It's
still you have to tell yourself you still have to train him. He still has to be fit, and still has to be able to do all the things like changing legs or even cross cantering or doing any of those things. He still has to be able to do them all. It's just when he gets to the ring, to the point where you need him to be his best, that's the part where you step away and leave it to him. At home, it's still all very strict. He still has to do all the same things every other horse does. It's not that you take it all away. It's just when you come to the point where you need him at his best, stay out of his way. So everything else is just protocol. Same things, same work as everything else, and then get to the ring and change.
And then how about him health-wise? Anything that you do to keep him? He
is for sure the soundest horse I've had, touch wood. He's 15 years old now, and he's as regards as the vet and stuff, the they're always looking at him and saying, well, we don't see anything. He's very healthy. Great, keep going. And so again, it's a little bit daunting where you're like, are you sure he doesn't need, has he enough energy? Do they need to do more work with him, less work with him? And 90% of the time, it's just keep doing what you're doing and stay out of his way, and he's gonna come through it. And it has worked. So it's very different to Legacy. I'm always, and she's a mare, obviously, so she is obviously more complications than a gelding, but just trying to make it all run smoothly.
Yeah. And what's he like personality-wise, Beth Lawrence?
Very, very, very laid back. And my two daughters actually can get on in front of me and go around on him. And he's very, very sweet horse. You could put a kid on him. You could let them lead him about. He's very, very, very switched off and very laid back to everything. And then he goes in the ring and becomes a different animal. But at home, he's very, very trustworthy and is a friendly giant.
So now, talking about yourself, how did you get interested in riding?
I grew up with it. My father rode a little bit at home nationally, and then he started training us from a very young age on ponies, me and Jordan. So we grew up doing it, and becoming competitive against one another was probably what made us better, if you like, pushed us every day rather than just on show days. If we were jumping a horse at home, we were always trying to jump it better than each other, and through all that we've helped each other a lot, I'm sure. So it's just been in the family, in the blood, however you want to put it. I don't actually really know, but that's how I got into it.
Mm-hmm. And you, Jordan, you're still competitive?
Oh yeah, very, very, very. We're brothers, and it's great. But when the helmet goes on, we're no longer brothers. It's just another competitor, and we give each other lots of advice, because my motto is, anyway, if somebody can beat you, then they deserve to, and vice versa. And not all jockeys would agree with that, but if they can do it, they can do it. So that's the way it is.
And are there any other memorable horses or wins that you've had that stand out in your mind? I'm
not sure, actually. Maybe I won the 500. Was it 500? Maybe 450, 5-star international Grand Prix in Florida on CETA, and I wasn't there very long at the time. I hadn't moved over to North America that long. That was probably my biggest win in the beginning. Before that, I'd only done a few FEI shows in North America, and actually my first Grand Prix win was Harrisburg, which was a few weeks ago, 3-star. And I won leading rider that year as well. So that was probably where it really kicked off for me, was the 3-star in Harrisburg. A long time ago now, maybe 5 or 6 years anyway, maybe 7, I don't know. A long time ago.
Yeah. And how did you come to work for the Granges? It's Lothlorien?
Lothlorien, yeah. It's a good story, actually. I was at home and in Ireland, and I had a few owners, and one of them was an older guy, and he passed away, and the younger lady left the sport. So it left me with not very much money, not very many horses, and it just seemed impossible. So I said to a friend at home, I said to Barry O'Connor, actually, I need to go away somewhere and get a opportunity somewhere else. And he rang me a few days later, and he says, I feel like Santa Claus. I've got you a job riding young horses for Conor Swale. And Conor worked for the Granges. So I went to Wellington that year and rode for Conor and the Lothlorien younger horses for them. And at the end of Florida, Sue Grange actually asked me would I come and ride for them. So I did, and I'm not sure exactly the dates, but it wouldn't be more than a year. Conor left, which left me with Conor wanted to travel the world and be number one, and he's he's very high at the moment. He's number 4 or something. So it was the right decision for him, but it left a huge opportunity for me, and that's how when he left, I got a bigger opportunity and was able to take it. So that's how I ended up at the Granges, and they've been incredibly supportive of me in every way, and not just the horses and family and everything. So it's a great partnership, and I hope it lasts.
Yeah, it's great. Great. What would you say your training philosophy is overall?
Training, I do actually a lot of riding younger horses. So that always is a big help whenever you get on a young horse that doesn't know anything, and then you get on an older horse that knows everything. That's always a big help to learning yourself and learning the horses. But as I said earlier, I try and do as much outdoor stuff like up and down hills and hacking, and just so you're getting more of a feel for the horse, rather than, because all these guys can jump major Grand Prix and they're doing it every single week. So for me to try and train differently and come out and still compete at that same level is the main goal for me, is to keep it so personal with the horse, and then in the very end, hopefully I'm a little closer to my horse than they are, and that's the only advantage I can take on them.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Great. I guess, similarly, what do you think makes a good horseman?
Lots of different things makes a good horseman, and there's lots of different ways of being a good horseman. Knowing when to jump the right class is always a big thing. From 4 years old till the horse is retired, knowing that they're ready to jump a little bigger and knowing they're not ready to jump a little bigger is a huge part. I also think somebody that can prepare to get to a championship and then also deliver at a championship is a huge part of horsemanship, because it takes so long to get prepared and qualified and selected to be on them teams. Anybody that has a few medals is usually an easy pick for a good horseman.
And when you were talking about knowing when to move the horse up, what do you look for?
Well, I guess that's something different from standing on the ground, because when you're on the ground, you say, yeah, for sure that horse can jump a little bit bigger. But when you're on the horse and it doesn't feel like it's comfortable or doesn't want to do anymore, then that's also a little bit part of the horsemanship. You got to know when it looks okay is great, but when it feels right is better.
And then talking about this horse show, have you competed at this event before?
I did Washington last year. It was in Tryon, but I did it there. And I'm sorry I never got to do it down in the city, because everybody said that was different again. It was a huge venue and it was very exciting. So I have to say I like it a whole lot better here this year than at Tryon last year. It's more comfortable. It's better for the crowd. It's all a little closer. So I hope it keeps running here.
Good. And then future plans?
Well, I suppose the nearest thing is World Cup finals. So and I haven't done that yet. So maybe I'll try and get qualified for that this year.
Great. Super. Well, thank you very much.
No problem.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode with Daniel Coyle, and a big thank you to the episode's sponsor, VitaFlex Pro. Learn more at vitaflex.com. You can subscribe to the Practical Horseman podcast on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. While there, please rate and review the show. I'm Sandy Olenek, and you've been listening to the Practical Horseman podcast.